Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, bringing you a grand solar minimum update on Thursday, August 9th, 11:49 p.m. Mountain Time 2018. You're looking at a Jökulhlaup back in April 14th of 2010, and this is a glacial flood, an outburst called a Jökulhlaup. Now, one of my midterm essays in thermodynamics was to determine the heat budget required to melt this much water, a Jökulhlaup like this. But just 4 days ago, the largest Jökulhlaup outwash ever recorded in modern history since 1972 was recorded on a glacier in Iceland. And these types of catastrophic events will be picking up if you're picking up what we're putting down. Welcome to the new paradigm, Jökulhlaup City. We call it the grand solar minimum paradigm, and we'll get back to the science if you bear with us as we get along with the update. Excessive heat and rain affects crop seasons in New York. Now, if you know about Jersey tomatoes, you're not buying these. They look nasty. Waves of torrential rain and withering heat and summer have made growing and harvesting food more unpredictable in farmers as the years progress. Now, in the bottom here, you just cut to the chase. It used to be that Ed could fill dozens of baskets of tomatoes quickly, but now it takes several hours to fill 12. And his sweet corn has been affected too. And while he'd ordinarily be cutting cabbage this time of year, that's not ready either. It's just a strange year, said Ed. Nothing's right. Grand solar minimum much? I think so. Storms to threaten the desert Southwest, Rockies, and High Plains this week. Get your helmets, kids. The hail is pounding the zoo. We have overplayed and overhashed and overdone this story time immemorial. Yes, this is the same footage that has happened for days at the park that sent people running. And now I'm stuck on this black screen. I bet you if we hit escape, we'll come back. Storms to repeat on High Plains, east-facing slopes of the Rockies. Yeah, east of Pikes Peak. Because that's where softball-sized hail is going to be falling. Now, as storms progress this week, thunderstorms will expand in the Four Corners region with local flooding, lightning dangers, and blowing dust. This is Phoenix in the bullseye, center of the green zone, as well as Albuquerque. And hopefully we'll get in on the action here. We need it. Now, I've got water running out of my well for the first time in 3 years, and I pumped over 2,500 gallons onto my crops. First time ever. It was a glorious day, and thunderstorms will expand and expected. Let me share with you stormersite.com/hail map. Now, at Stormer's site, you can get information on snow, wind, hail, tornadoes, and we're at the hail map here. It's interactive and it's live. You can see right now there's hail at night forming in the Phoenix area. Possible live hail detected August 10th, 12:03 a.m. CDC. That's now. 100% chance of hail and 40% chance of being severe. We also have hail being reported here in eastern Arizona. Possible live hail, 12:03 a.m. CDC. There is a 100% chance of hail, 40% chance of severe. New Mexico, we're talking a little bit east of Las Vegas, New Mexico. Possible hail coming in, 100% chance, 30% chance of being severe. This is a great map. You can see severe thunderstorms in the Chi-Town area as well as the Nashville area. Just click on it to get info down here. Possible live hail detected and so on and so forth. Vermont's got some thunderstorms popping off right now, and we're absolutely dry in my region. Check out Stormer's site. Weather.gov, we are Weather Ready Nation ambassadors. Dangerous heat wave over the west, heavy rainfall potential over the southern U.S. We just showed you here the flood zones in New Mexico, some in Phoenix. But heat watches and fire weather watches and warnings, red flag warnings all over the Northwest. Now, we predicted 2 or 3 weeks ago it was going to progress through the summer to be worse up in the Northwest and not so bad down here. It's progressing exactly as we predicted it. Imagine that. A very hot and dry pattern will continue across much of the West Coast into the weekend. Numerous wildfires continue to burn, especially in California, Northern California, and the ongoing dry conditions may exacerbate the situation. Do you think? No directed energy weapons needed. Over the southern U.S., numerous showers and thunderstorms will be possible through Friday. We showed you the map. June beef herd liquidation at near record levels. Is this a drought on steroids? Yeah. Making announcements about emergency financial support for farmers. Last week, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull described this year's drought as one of the worst since the centennial minimum. It's now a drought on steroids, as described by one farmer this week. Yeah, it's true. What appears to be so irregular about the drought is the short period of time taken for this severity to ramp up, reaching 53.7% national female slaughter very quickly. Yeah, they're getting rid of animals, and there will be a glut of meat, and then there will be none. Can you say $20 a pound steaks? Western Australia facing floods as the drought grips the east. 100% drought in New South Wales. Read the article. All the links are down below where it says show more. If you don't know where that is and you've been watching our channel for more than a day, please ask someone. Cold weekend ahead for Durban as snow falls in Drakensberg. This is South Africa. Durban residents should brace themselves for a chilly start to the weekend as snowfalls in Drakensberg are expected. The South African Weather Service forecast, Ayandan said, today heavy rain is expected over some parts of the KwaZulu-Natal, according to Gwala, Ugu, as well as Umagolulu. On Friday, we are watching frost-strong, damaging winds along the coast of the province, as well as disruptive snow in the southern parts of the Drakensberg, and so on and so forth. Heads up! Unusually severe cold front hits Australia. People in blue with goggles are shoveling out the steps. Dust, thunder, heavy hail, heavy snow, cold temperatures, destructive winds up to 130 kilometers an hour are on the cards for most of Australia over the next few days. Now, this is the latest in a series of cold fronts that have brought unsettled weather and windy conditions, but the next arrival is expected to be the fiercest of the bunch, sinking temperatures as much as 13 C below average in places. Now, we'll see winds increase through Friday evening, according to bomb meteorologist Stephen King. Now, he didn't write any novels, and he's certainly on the global warming bandwagon, but he's predicting a big boom. By the time people wake up, the winds across of most of Victoria with destructive alpine regions up to 130 kilometers per hour, while elsewhere wind gusts of 90 to 100 from first thing and right through most of the day. That's what's unusual about this event. It will be for a significant amount of time across a really widespread area. Thousands of square miles much. Tonight's first boom, knowledge, yes. We had some raised dust in the Mallee for a few weeks, and there's again the possibility of dust that could make its way through Victoria and Melbourne, Mr. King said. Things are setting up for heavy snow. New South Wales Perisher Valley received 61 centimeters of snow in just the last 7 days, with the approaching cold front expected to dump ever more over the weekend. All ski resorts have been extending their seasons into the center of summer. An avalanche warning is in place for Victoria's freezing temperatures and winds whip the southern state. Al Gore is nowhere to be found. More than 40 centimeters of snow fell overnight at Mount Hotham, while the snow base, being 154 centimeters deep, is at record territory. The Blizzard of Oz event late in 2017 took Australian snow depth totals to record highs, and it could be snowing for months. We'll keep our eyes on it. I assure you, strong M6.2 downgraded to 5.9 by the U.S. downgrade service strikes Lombok just this morning. Now, this is 4 days after a devastating M7.0 killed over 259 confirmed people in Indonesia, and you don't know that number is light. Now, this strong aftershock registering BMKG M6.2 hit Lombok at just 5:25 UTC on August 9th. It just hit 4 days after the devastating quake, and it's not over. And it's not Lombok, the island, we're worried about. That's delicious. It's not. So let's come over and check out Lombok and see what's going on the island proper. Now we're going up here in Indonesia, and you can see the quake of note is missing. Yeah, it occurred right here on the western part of the island. Now this quake, 4.6, is much closer to the volcano itself. Now this is Samalas. This volcano erupted. It's now called Rinjani, but you can see the crater here is Samalas crater. This is part of the 1257 eruption that darkened the skies globally and continued a crop loss and famine cycle by pushing it over the edge into the depths of despair, ending the empire. Rinjani and the eruption of in 1257, which is referred to as the eruption of Samalas in Indonesia, ranks amongst the largest sulfur-rich eruptions in the Common Era, with sulfur deposition in ice cores reaching twice the volume of Tambora back in the Dalton minimum. And this baby is rocking. Here's a 4.6 at a magma depth right next to that caldera. And if we just come in a little closer here, I'm going to just show you a little bit about my geologic expertise. This is an other ancient caldera that this earthquake is happening on the rim of. A little bigger than the M7 Samalas eruption. This looks like an M8, VEI8. This is a VEI7, one of the largest ever recorded in modern history. And here is where the earthquake is happening, where a former caldera once existed. And here you can see the lahars and the valleys where those mud flows would occur. Similar mud flows have occurred here off of the flanks, quite clearly. These are lahar positions. Whew. Lot to learn before we get burned. No other quakes of note. There's no other Arctic activity, which has been happening in the last 24 hours. We have a 5.0 happening at 50 kilometers in Russia. 5.0 in Taiwan. We have some activity here off of the coast of Africa, the South Atlantic, 5.6 in the Eastern Island region, potentially. 5.6 in Guatemala at 28 kilometers. We're just waiting for the big quake. It's coming in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're talking 8 magnitude or greater. Now, Ol Dionyo Egai volcano and activities, the active crater and natrocarbonate lava shown here in early December 2017. Now, this is a very unique type of lava. These are carbonate lava flows. That's molten limestone being erupted. It completely goes against volcano theory, but it's happening, folks. These carbonatites are often mistaken as marbles, metamorphosed limestones that have been at depth exposed at the surface. But in fact, they get erupted at the surface. These are intrusive or extrusive igneous rocks defined by a high carbonate rich, greater than 50%. Totally unexpected in mafic rocks, which means volcanic. These carbonatites are awesome. And they're happening live. A new emission of hot carbonatite at Ol Dionyo Legani volcano in Tanzania was reported just a few days ago by Culture Volcan Reports. The last known eruption of this volcano was in 2014. And here's some thermal signatures. You can see the little spot there where it's happening. We showed you that little caldera in there. It's a limestone caldera. It's completely insane. Now, let's talk about the Watcher's News Brief for today. Glacial outburst flood from Vatnajökull, largest on record in Iceland. We showed you the awesome video of the 2010 event. Boom! Of a Jökulhlaup. Now, you don't have to take my word for it that this is a Jökulhlaup. Because I'm going to send you to the Wikipedia, the #1 source for falsified news. So that's a Jökulhlaup, and here is a Jökulhlaup. Icelandic pronunciation, Jökulhlaup, in literally glacial run. Type of glacial outburst flood. It's an Icelandic term that has been adopted in glaciological terminology in many languages. It originally referred to the well-known subglacial outburst flood from Vatnajökull, Iceland, which are triggered by geothermal heating and occasionally by volcanic subglacial eruptions. In this case, it's just normal melt-off and maybe a subglacial eruption, but it is now used to describe any large and abrupt release of water from a subglacial or proglacial lake or reservoir. You're learning, and you didn't even pay for this class. So we've got hot limestone emanating from a volcano. Yeah. And we've got one of the largest glacial outbursts on record. This is all happening this week. Heavy storms and flooding hit central Germany. Major flash flooding in Turkey. The aftermath of the debris flow in Chamison we showed you yesterday covered the streets in what appears to be asphalt. This is where the idiots were running away. If they stood there, they would be Mount Vesuvian stones. Heavy flooding leaves 22 dead, destroys more than 3,000 homes and 4,000 hectares of crops in Nigeria. And here we have Krakatoa erupting all week, which is now called Krakatau, and they're sending drones toward it. Flood death toll in Assam reaches 76, 90,000 still affected, over 20,000 hectares of crops underwater in India, 20 people killed in Kerala after heavy rain triggers floods and landslides in India. Tropical storm Yagi is now moving away from the coast, but Hector is headed on into Japan. Here's the latest info on the float of Safka and the normal and the glacial outbursts. If you want to come read it and see the data sets yourself, I'll leave you links at vedor.is. And Rinjani, I showed you that there is an uptick. There was a 6.2 magnitude downgraded to 5.9 this morning, followed by a 4.6 closer to an ancient caldera in this region. We have to watch this volcano closely. It's bad news. Climate response to the Samalas volcanic eruption in 1257. Read about the science of what would happen if another VEI 7 erupts at this place. So look what happens here. In North America, it got colder, but it got warmer up in the Arctic after this eruption. Contemporary records attest to severe famines in England and Japan. They began prior to the eruption. It's exactly what we're experiencing now. The crop losses prior to the eruption. And we conclude the Samalas eruption aggravated existing crises, but did not trigger the famines. No, the sun triggers the famines. The volcanoes put an exclamation point on it. Now, what do we really know about evolution? Nothing. It's a lie. Niles Eldridge has the best iteration of it currently. It's called punctuated equilibria. Google it. The animal kingdom is much older than previously thought. And I knew this 3 decades ago because the Burgess Shale alone, which is part of the early Cambrian explosion up in British Columbia, there's a quarry, shows hundreds of different species that we cannot even put into currently existing kingdoms. Creatures like Wixwaxia and Hallucinogenia with 12 sets of eyes and 14 legs. These creatures had hearts, livers, and lungs. And 14 sets of eyes, and they're no longer a kingdom associated with them at this time, or for the last 500 million years for that matter. And there was a time before the Cambrian where there's very unique fauna called the Ediacarian fauna. Now, these are unexplained. But it's clear that scientists now are gathering more evidence to suggest that we don't know anything. Older ideas or early animal evolution may need to be revised. And research suggests the animal kingdom is much older than previously thought. It was diversifying 100 million years before the Burgess Shale, because you cannot get the Burgess Shale fauna, which is completely advanced creatures, thousands of them, from nowhere, unless they came in on a spaceship. Now, it was discovered by Charles Walcott on 2 days after my birthday, 1909. He returned in 1910 to this British Columbia quarry, and by 1924 had amassed over 65,000 unique specimens of soft body part creatures which are unexplainable. Anomalocaris alone was a predator up to 7 feet long. No one has any idea what this is related to. It just ate everything. Nothing like it exists today. In the Silurian period, a Eurypterid is quite similar to this. It's an 8-foot giant thing that ate everybody that was in the ocean. You didn't want to meet these creatures. They were totally insane. Unimaginable. I'll leave you links to the fossils of the Burgess Shale so you can start to understand how insane these creatures are and how they don't match anything in the fossil record at all. Here's hallucinogenia, an armored iobopod that was originally reconstructed upside down. They thought these were its legs when it actually had soft legs, tuberous legs, and these are spines. Yeah, so that giant predator couldn't eat it. We're talking weird toad worms, Morella. Who knows what that was? The first horseshoe crab-like things, Burgessia. These just didn't emanate from nothing. These are big creatures. They're not small. They get 5 feet to 7 feet. This is a small one at 6 inches. Here's Anomalocaris. Anomalocaris. It's an anomaly. All of a sudden, we have this gigantic predator eating everybody with these gigantic black beady eyes. Beady, 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 beady. And we're not talking Buck Rogers. This is in science. You didn't get taught about this because they don't want you questioning the system. Do what you're told. Go to work. Global warming. It's your fault. Comply. Smart cities. The world is exploding. Quickly, come into the camp. I implore you to not follow the herd. You could do something about it. Start preparing now. Don't wait. Be smart. Build community. Find a bug out plan. Know where you're going. Know how to fish. Know how to hunt. Learn how to grow food. Learn what homesteading means. Learn 14 things you can do with sorghum. And if you don't know what sorghum is, then you are... I'm praying for you. Hope you got something out of the video. Times are changing. Time is wasting. Start now. Be safe. We love you.